Welcome to the deep dive. NFTs, they've really, blown up this whole idea of owning unique digital things.
Totally.
But there's this nagging question, right? How do we make sure this stuff, these digital treasures, actually stick around, like for the long haul?
Exactly. It's not just about the now.
It's about accessibility years down the line. Is it still going to be there?
Yeah, because the internet, well, it feels permanent, but it's not inherently.
Right.
If your NFT points to a file on some random web server and that server just poof disappears.
Then your NFT is kind of like a digital ghost, right?
Pretty much. That's
Yeah.
why you need solutions actually built for longevity,
Yep.
for persistence.
And that leads us right into what we're diving into today, AIOZ PIN infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like a dedicated service
Ah.
designed to make NFT storage and this thing called pinning simpler.
Right. It cuts through the complexity.
It's basically combining the AIOZ network and IPFS, the Interplanetary File System.
IPFS, yeah. Sounds complex, but it's essentially peer-to-peer storage.
A different way to find and store files online.
And what's really neat about AIOZ PIN is how it tries to, hide a lot of that underlying tech stuff.
Abstracted away.
Exactly. So whether you're creating NFTs, collecting them, or building platforms around them,
You need that assurance they'll stay available.
right. And AIOZ PIN gives you tools for that without needing a PhD in decentralized protocols.
So our mission today is really to unpack how AIOZ PIN actually simplifies managing NFTs.
Let's do it.
We'll look at getting started, whether you like clicking around a website or you're more comfortable with developer tools.
Because they offer both, which is smart.
Yeah, a pretty straightforward website interface and then this more powerful SDK API for the developers.
So options for everyone.
Okay, so first things first. Someone wants to try AIOZ PIN. What's step one?
Well, like most things online, you got to create an account first.
Oops.
Just head to the AIOZ PIN sign-in page. We'll link that up for you and, go through the usual sign-up process.
Standard procedure. Okay. Now, storing data isn't usually free, right? How does the cost side work here?
Good question. That's where funding your account comes in.
Ah.
Once you're signed in, find the payment tab. It'll show you a unique payment address and a QR code too.
Okay.
You need to send AIOZ tokens, that's the AIOZ network's own crypto token, to that address.
From a digital wallet, presumably.
Yep, from your wallet. And remember, blockchain transactions take a little time.
Right, not instant usually.
So you got to wait a few minutes for it to confirm on the network. Once it's confirmed, you'll see your balance update in AIOZ PIN, along with all the transaction details.
Okay, familiar ground for anyone who's used crypto before. So let's say I'm an artist or maybe a collector. I just want to upload my NFT files, no code involved. Can I do that on the website?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The web interface is designed to be really intuitive for that.
Good.
Log in, make sure you've got some AIOZ tokens funded, and then look for something like a plus add files button, usually top right.
Yeah.
Click that, and you'll get options.
Yeah.
You can hit upload and browse your computer,
Or drag and drop.
or just drag and drop your files right onto the page.
Yeah.
Super easy. Then just hit the upload button to take things off.
Sounds very user-friendly. Okay, but what about the developers or platforms wanting to automate this? That's where the API and SDK come in.
Exactly. That's the next level.
Let's talk about these API keys first. What are they exactly? Why do you need one?
Think of them like secure keys to a specific door. They let software applications talk to the AIOZ PIN service securely.
Okay.
For developers, these keys are crucial. They let you programmatically do stuff, upload, pin content, remove it, list what you've already got stored, all through code.
Right. And where do you get them?
There's an AIOZ
Yeah.
pinning API keys page. That's your hub for managing them. You
Sure.
give your key a name, like my DApp key or something.
To keep track.
Yeah, helps keep things organized. Then click Create.
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting for the coders listening. You create the key. What do you actually get back?
The system generates a unique token. That is your API key.
And it's sensitive, right?
Oh, extremely.
Yeah.
Treat it like a password. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. Store it securely.
Because that's what your application uses to authenticate itself.
Precisely. It proves to AIOZ PIN that your app has permission to make requests. The interface usually has a handy copy button so you can grab it easily.
Okay, makes sense. Store that token safely. Now let's get into the SDK API. Uploading not just files, but whole directories. That sounds useful.
Yeah, definitely a time saver for bigger projects.
How does a developer get started with the SDK?
Okay, so first you set up a new project on your computer, make a new folder,
Standard stuff.
then open your terminal, navigate into that folder. If you're using Node.js, which is super common,
Mm-hmm.
you'd run npm init to initialize the project, sets up your package file.
Right, the package.json. Okay, basic setup done. Then what?
Then you need to actually install the AIOZ PIN SDK client. In your terminal, just run npm install AIOZ SDK. That command fetches the library, all the code you need to talk to AIOZ PIN from your own application.
Got it. And then the coding starts. Let's say I just want to upload one single file using this SDK. How does that work?
Right. So the SDK gives you specific functions, methods to use. For a single file, you'll likely use client.pinFileTow IPFS.
PinFileTow IPFS.
Now, this method needs the file's content. Typically in Node.js, you provide that as what's called a readable stream.
A stream.
Yeah, you use the built-in fs.createAReadStream function and just point it to your file's path on your computer.
Okay. And I saw something about metadata.
Yes, you can also pass an optional options object along with the stream.
And what goes in there?
Useful stuff. You could get your file a specific name for how it appears in AIOZ PIN, maybe something more descriptive than the file name.
Like cooler.org version 2.png or something.
Exactly. Or you can add custom key value pairs, maybe artist, your name, creation date, whatever's relevant to you.
Ah, okay. So custom tags, basically.
Pretty much. The method returns a promise, which is just how JavaScript handles things that take time, like uploads. Use the for success, .catch for errors.
Standard async stuff. Okay, that handles one file. But what if I have like a whole collection, an image, a thumbnail, maybe some other related files, all in one folder?
Doing them one by one would be tedious.
Yeah.
So the SDK has client.pinFolder to IPFS.
Nice.
Instead of a file stream, you just give it the path to the folder as a string.
A whole folder path.
Yep. The SDK then just iterates through everything in that folder and uploads it all. Super convenient.
Does it take options too for metadata?
It does. You can pass that options object and the metadata would apply to the folder itself.
Wow. Okay, that sounds really efficient for keeping related stuff together.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the core of it for NFTs, pinning the actual NFT, which, as we know, is usually the main file plus its metadata.
Right. The metadata is crucial for context, traits, description.
How does AIOZ pin handle that combo specifically with the SDK?
They've got a dedicated method just for this.
Yeah.
Client.pinNFT.
Pin NFT. Makes sense.
It's designed precisely to handle both the main NFT file, like your image or video, and its metadata file together.
So you provide both?
Generally, yes. You provide a readable stream for the main NFT file, and then, importantly, a separate readable stream for the metadata file.
Okay, two streams. Got it. And the options object again?
You can still use that too, yeah, for any extra top-level info you want to associate.
And this metadata file, what does it typically look like for an NFT? Is there a standard?
Well, the docs often show an example using a JSON file, maybe called sample.json.
Okay, JSON format.
Yeah. Inside, you typically have fields like name for the NFT's title, a description, naturally, and then usually an array called properties. This is key.
Properties, what goes in there?
That's where you define the traits. Each item in the properties array usually has a trait type, like color or background or rarity, and then a corresponding value, like blue, space, or rare.
Ah, so trait type, color, value, blue, tree type, accessory, value, hat, things like that.
Exactly like that. It describes what makes the NFT unique.
And the structure, is it rigid or can you adapt it?
That's the beauty of it. It's flexible. You can totally customize that sample.json file, add different fields, structure the properties differently, whatever matches your specific NFT project or the standard you're following.
Okay, that's powerful because metadata standards can vary a bit.
Right. The PinNFT method just simplifies that core task, linking your rich metadata to your main NFT file on IPFS.
It really sounds like the SDK gives developers a pretty complete toolkit then. Integrates storage, pinning, metadata handling right into their apps. But just to double check, using these SDK methods requires that API key we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. You need your valid API key and secret.
And you need to make sure your code points to the actual files on your computer and the metadata JSON is structured correctly, right?
100%. The code examples you see are templates. You have to plug in your own keys, your correct file paths, and tailor that metadata JSON.
Got it. Okay, wow, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's try to bring it all together. What are the main takeaways here? What does AIOZ PIN infrastructure really offer?
Okay, so in a nutshell, AIOZ PIN aims to be a streamlined, secure way to store NFT data and make sure it stays accessible long-term.
Streamlined and secure.
Yeah, and it offers that flexibility. the easy-to-use website for individuals, creators, collectors.
Right, the drag and drop simplicity.
And then the powerful SDK API for developers needing more control or automation.
Integration potential.
Plus, that specific focus on simplifying NFT pinning, associating the metadata with the file, is a really key feature.
And underpinning all this is the tech.
Yeah.
AIOZ network and IPFS working together for that long-term preservation, right?
Exactly. It's leveraging decentralization. So your data isn't just sitting on one company's server waiting to go offline.
Yeah, that's a huge difference from traditional web hosting. With IPFS, it's about the content itself, not where it's located. Content addressing.
Right. Which makes it inherently more resilient if the content exists anywhere on the network.
It can potentially be found, but pinning is important there, isn't it?
Crucial. Pinning is like telling the IPFS network, hey, this specific content is important. Keep it readily available.
Otherwise, it might eventually get cleaned up if nobody seems interested.
Potentially, yeah. Nodes might garbage collect unpinned data. AIOZ pin essentially acts as a reliable pinning service.
Ensuring your NFT data stays pinned and available.
And the AIOZ network layer provides the infrastructure, maybe incentives for nodes, and tools like AIOZ pin to manage it all easily.
So for anyone owning or creating NFTs, this translates to, well, much less risk of your digital asset just vanishing one day.
A much higher degree of permanence.
It's like storing valuables in multiple secure vaults instead of just one box under the bed.
Good analogy. It distributes the risk and enhances the resilience significantly.
Well, this has been super insightful, a real deep dive into AIOZ PIN. It definitely highlights how the underlying tech is evolving to properly support this whole new world of digital ownership.
It's moving fast.
It really is. And it kind of leaves you thinking, doesn't it? As more of our lives, our assets, our investments go digital, just how vital will robust, user-friendly infrastructure like this become to actually safeguard the value and the accessibility of everything we own online long term?
Definitely something to consider.
Food for thought. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.